I think we've all been waiting for this one. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Sea Radio. My name is Corbin, and the Boston Red Sox have really started to shake up their 26-man roster a little bit. A lot of that's due to the fact that there have been an absorbent amount of injuries so far this year for the Red Sox, but some of it is just to ensure that this roster is as best as it could possibly be. We're talking guys from the outside like Garrett Cooper, guys from the minor leagues like Zach Kelly, Cam Boozer, or Uwasawa, who is a combination of both. But I think there's one move that Red Sox fans have sort of been waiting on since the offseason ended, and we're finally getting that move today. So what we are doing in today's video is we're going to break this down a bit. We're going to talk about the latest Red Sox roster move, why people have been waiting for this one, why it's so important, and what the impact this could have on the 2024 season could be. But before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Just helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Don't forget, these episodes are also always available on the go in podcast form, whether you listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Pocket Casts. You can get Red Seat Radio there as well. All you have to do is click the link in the description down below, or head over to your favorite podcast app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so the move we are talking about today is the Red Sox finally activating one Vaughn Grissom, who, in my opinion, was probably the most notable in terms of newsworthy acquisition the Red Sox made this offseason. Now, looking back at the 2024 offseason with the context of a month through the 2024 regular season, that answer is probably Tyler O'Neill. He has by far and away made the biggest impact on the Red Sox of anyone they brought in this offseason. But before the season began, the most notable thing for the Red Sox to happen this offseason was them trading Chris Sale to the Braves for Vaughn Grissom. Unfortunately for us and for the Red Sox, we haven't really seen how that trade's going to play out yet. Vaughn Grissom pulled his hamstring in spring training. He was put on the 10-day IL, and he's been working his way back ever since. Thankfully, he appears to be healthy and ready to go after a few games in AAA. And I got to tell you, from what he did in AAA, we should be a bit excited about who Grissom could be at the major league level, because he spent 9 games down there with a total 333 average, a really impressive 444 on base percentage, and a 400 slug, which is good for an 844 OPS, or a 134 WRC plus, meaning he was about 34% more productive at the plate than the average hitter in AAA. However, what makes these stats a little bit more interesting is that for the first week or so down there, he was still getting his timing under him. He mentioned in an interview after his first week that he was feeling good health-wise, but it felt like he was in the first week of spring training, right? He was still trying to time up his swing. He was still trying to get on fastballs, wait on off-speed pitches. There was a learning curve there that happens with every player in spring training. Obviously, he didn't have that, so it took him a little bit to get going. If you take out that first week of games, about 4 days of his rehab assignment, and just look at his last 7 games, that's a much different picture. He's a 435 average with a ridiculous 552 on base percentage, meaning that he's getting on base once every 2 at-bats. That's really impressive. Actually, more than once every 2 at-bats, and a 522 slug, which is good for a 195 WRC plus, about 95% more productive than the average hitter in AAA baseball. He looks more than ready to join this big league team and be a pretty big contributor. The big reason right now I'm excited for Vaughn Grissom is because you're offensively not getting much out of your second base position. Valdez is hitting just 146 with a 180 on base percentage and a 256 slug, which is good for a 436 OPS and a 21 OPS plus, about 79% below league average production, and it's been a bit of a black hole over there in terms of offense. Now, I don't expect Vaughn Grissom to come up here, hit the way he was hitting in AAA, although that'd be incredible, but even if he ends up closer or even slightly below his career numbers, you're still talking about a major upgrade. We've talked about it before, but Vaughn Grissom has spent pretty decent amount of time at the major league level. It's 64 games between 22 and 23, so not an incredibly crazy sample size, but almost about half a season, getting close to a half a season. And during that time, the reason we're bringing this up, he hit 287 with a 339 on base percentage and a 407 slug, good for a 107 OPS plus, about 7% above league average production. Now, obviously, these numbers are a bit different than what he was doing in AAA, which makes a lot of sense, right? You're not going to be as good of a hitter in AAA. Well, most of the time, you're not going to be as good of a hitter in AAA as you are at the big league level, especially with not a ton of experience. There's obviously much better pitching in Major League Baseball. There's a lot of time you need to adjust. He's on an entirely new team. So even if he's not at his AAA level and he's closer to what he's been able to do at the major league level in about half a season, you're still talking about a major increase in production offensively from that second base position. Let's say Vaughn Grissom gets up here and over the next month or so, he has about a 95 OPS plus, right? Which would still be below league average production, but that's still an increase production-wise of about 74% from what you were getting from Emmanuel Valdez in the first month. That could do absolute wonders to the Red Sox lineup. In fact, adding both of these guys, the two newer additions to the Red Sox, Grissom and Cooper, will make this Red Sox lineup a whole lot more potent. Not because these guys are going to be superstars or all-stars, although I do think Vaughn Grissom has a really high ceiling, which we can get into at a later date. But what they're going to do is transform two positions on the diamond that just really weren't giving you anything offensively. Between first base and second base this year, Bobby Dalbec and Emmanuel Valdez, you currently have a 142 average between the two positions. That's not exactly fantastic, right? That's the average of your second and first baseman. That's two spots in your lineup hitting well below 200. At the bare minimum, if Grissom can come up here and hit above 200, closer to 250, 260, you're talking about an over 100 point increase in his average, in the amount of times he's getting hits, and that immediately lengthens this Red Sox lineup. We talked a lot in the Cleveland Guardians series about the fact that they lost that series in large part due to the fact the bottom of their order just couldn't get these guys who were producing at the top of the order in critical situations. Grissom and Cooper to some degree are going to really help with that. Again, I think Grissom is by far and away the more exciting addition to this Red Sox team. This is a guy who, in my opinion, could be the solution to the Red Sox second base problem for the next coming years. This isn't just a guy who's going to be here for a couple of months. This is someone who could cement themselves as a piece of this Red Sox roster for years to come, which is why this kind of feels like the Red Sox are calling up one of their top prospects. Obviously, Grissom has not retained prospect status, but he was at one point one of the Braves' top prospects, and that's kind of how I'm treating this, right? He doesn't have a ton of experience at the major league level, enough where he loses rookie status, but not really enough to say, yeah, that's an established major league hitter. So I'm sort of treating this like, yeah, they're calling up a prospect, a really, really good, promising prospect, and I have a lot of hope for what Grissom could be. We talked about it in a video earlier this season, right before the season began, but if you take a look at what Grissom's ceiling is, I'm not going to put Xander Bogaerts' name on him because Xander was such an integral part of the Red Sox for so many years, but batting profile wise, it's kind of similar, right? He's going to hit a couple of home runs. Xander, I think, has a little bit more power, but they're going to be a ton of doubles. There's going to be a lot of contact. It's not going to be a ton of speed, but it's going to be a lot of good at bats. They sort of profile out similarly at the plate, and that's kind of where I see Vaughn Grissom's ceiling at. Xander is an entirely different level, but that type of batting profile, so I'm super, super excited to see what he could do at the major league level. We're finally getting our first glimpse of that. In my opinion, again, this is by far and away the most exciting roster move the Red Sox have made over the last couple of weeks. But there is another part of this as well, and someone did get sent down, so let's talk about them as well. In terms of who the Boston Red Sox decided to remove from the 26-man roster, I ultimately think the decision came down to two different people, David Hamilton and Bobby Dalbec, and the answer to that question was announced just a couple of minutes ago when the Red Sox decided to option Bobby Dalbec, which to me does make some sense. It's not a perfect swap because Bob is a third and first baseman, but with Zach Short now here and Dom/Cooper manning first base, it was going to be really difficult to find Bob some playing time at all. I will say Bobby did have value for the Red Sox. I know his bat was, let's say, subpar, but he was an excellent first baseman defensively. Statistically, it was one of the best in baseball right now. So I think you could have made the argument that Bobby Dalbec was a better fit for this roster at the time, but honestly, I don't think it makes too much of a difference either way, as with how the roster is constructed right now, neither of them, Bobby or David Hamilton, were going to get a ton of playing time, so it makes sense to go with the versatility and, for what it's worth, a bit more production in in the bat in David Hamilton. Plus, it gives you a lefty off the bench, which allows Core to mix and match a little bit more. Honestly, again, in my opinion, it could have gone either way here. I think either way, the Red Sox made the right decision just getting Grissom on the roster, so I'm not going to complain about this one. Overall, when you're looking at this move as a whole, again, I think either way it would have made sense. One of these two guys was going to have to leave in order to fit Vaughn Grissom on this roster. They were both kind of blocking him in, and I think either way you slice it, one of them had to go. I hope the Red Sox made the right decision here. I think they did make the right decision here. When we're talking about Grissom coming back, we already talked about what kind of impact he could have. I'm excited to see what he's going to look like in a Red Sox uniform. I personally think this is the biggest roster move the Red Sox have made yet this season, because I think it could have the biggest impact on the 2024 season. The most interesting part to me is something we talked about in just a couple of minutes ago, and that is what he's going to look like defensively. We know he's not a very good defensive shortstop, but he's been a bit better at second base. How does he figure in to the Red Sox defensive issues over the last couple of months? Is he going to improve them? Is he going to make it worse? Or is it going to stay the same? My hope is that it's one of the other two options as opposed to make it worse. I think everyone's hope is that, but I do also think that his bat should make up for whatever fault he may have defensively. Either way, again, I'm really excited about this, actually kind of pumped about this. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? What is your opinion on this roster move? Are you excited for Grissom to come back? Are you curious? Are you against Grissom coming back? And do you think they made the right decision in who they optioned for this team? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Just helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.